This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackridge. Israel's government and Hamas agreed on Wednesday to a 4-day pause in fighting to allow the release of 50 hostages held in Gaza in exchange for 150 Palestinians imprisoned in Israel and the entry of humanitarian aid into the besieged enclave. Officials from Qatar, which has been mediating secret negotiations, as well as the US, Israel, and Hamas, have for days been saying a deal was imminent. Hamas is believed to be holding more than 200 hostages taken when its fighters surged into Israel on October 7th, killing 1,200 people, according to Israeli tallies. A statement by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said 50 women and children will be released over 4 days, during which there will be a pause in fighting. For every additional 10 hostages released, the pause would be extended by another day. It said, without mentioning the release of Palestinian prisoners in exchange, Israel's government is committed to return all the hostages home. Tonight, it approved the proposed deal as a first stage to achieving this goal, said the statement. Hamas said the 50 hostages would be released in exchange for 150 Palestinian women and children held in Israeli jails. The Truce deal will also allow hundreds of trucks of humanitarian, medical, and fuel aid to enter Gaza. The Palestinian group said in a statement Israel had committed not to attack or arrest anyone in all parts of Gaza during the truce period. It added, US President Joe Biden welcomed the deal. Today's deal should bring home additional American hostages, and I will not stop until they are all released, Biden said in a statement. The Qatar government said 50 civilian women and children hostages would be released from Gaza in exchange for the release of a number of Palestinian women and children held in Israeli prisons. The starting time of the truce would be announced within the next 24 hours, it said in a statement. Israel's Justice Ministry posted a list of about 300 Palestinian prisoners slated for release, a publication that appeared intended to allow for any last-minute legal challenges, but Netanyahu said Israel's broader mission was unchanged. We are at war and we will continue the war until we achieve all our goals to destroy Hamas, return all our hostages, and ensure that no entity in Gaza can threaten Israel, he said in a recorded message. At the start of the government meeting, Hamas said in its statement, as we announced the striking of a truce agreement, we affirm that our fingers remain on the trigger and our victorious fighters will remain on the lookout to defend our people and defeat the occupation. OpenAI on Tuesday said it reached an agreement for Sam Altman to return as CEO days after his ouster, capping France's discussions about the future of the startup at the center of the artificial intelligence boom. In addition to Altman's return, the company agreed in principle to partly reconstitute the board of directors that had dismissed him. Brett Taylor, formerly co-CEO of Salesforce, and Larry Summers, former US Treasury Secretary, will join Quora CEO and current director Adam D'Angelo, OpenAI said. The board had given few details explaining Altman's firing on Friday, other than his lack of candor and its need to defend OpenAI's mission developing AI to benefit humanity. The deal to restore Altman ushers in a potentially new era for the startup, a non-profit which long juggled concerns among staff about AI's dangers and its potential for commercialization. Tuesday's reshuffle appeared to favor Altman and financial backer Microsoft, which is rolling out OpenAI technology to business customers globally. We believe this is a first essential step on a path to more stable, well-informed, and effective governance, he said. Altman's return also caps a tumultuous weekend that saw him to agree to head a new research team at Microsoft, which has invested billions of dollars in OpenAI and given it the computing power necessary for its technology. That followed the rejection by OpenAI's board of its first attempt to return to the startup on Sunday by naming ex-Twitch boss Mnet Shear as interim CEO. While it's still unclear exactly what the tug of war prompting his initial departure involved, Sam Altman's view about how to run the company will dominate future direction, especially given he will be supervised under a new board, said Susanna Streeter, head of of money and market at Hargreaves Lansdowne. In a post on X, Cheers celebrated the late night outcome Tuesday, which he said followed 72 very intense hours of work. This was the pathway that maximized safety alongside doing right by all stakeholders involved, Cheers said. Altman's dismissal had brought uncertainty for OpenAI and Microsoft alike, which had moved quickly to control damage over the weekend by vowing to hire him and Greg Brockman, president of the startup. Brockman, who had quit after Altman was ousted, said in a post on X that he was getting back to coding tonight. South Korea moved to suspend on Wednesday part of a military agreement it signed with Pyongyang in 2018 after the isolated North defied warnings from the United States and its allies and launched a spy satellite, calling it a success. North Korea said it placed its first spy satellite in orbit on Tuesday and vowed to launch more in the near future. Photographs published by North Korean state media showed what appeared to be leader Kim Jong-un watching the fiery launch of a rocket from a base. South Korea and Japan, which first reported the launch, could not immediately verify whether a satellite was in orbit. The Pentagon said the US military was still assessing whether the launch was a success. South Korea President Yoon Suk-yeol in Britain for a state visit approved the decision to suspend part of the Inter-Korean agreement. Yoon earlier led a National Security Council meeting with ministers and the intelligence chief by video link. The pact, known as the Comprehensive Military Agreement and aim at de-escalating tensions between the rivals, was signed at a 2018 summit between former South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, but critics have called for it to be scrapped, saying it weakens Seoul's ability to monitor North Korea's actions around the border. While Pyongyang has flagrantly violated the agreement, South Korea's defense ministry said it was suspending a clause in the agreement as of 3 p.m. that is 0600 GMT and resuming aerial surveillance near the joint border. North Korea had notified Japan it planned to launch a satellite between Wednesday and December 1st after two failed attempts to launch what it called spy satellites this year. Ahead of international climate talks in Dubai this month, economists are updating estimates of the impact of global warming on the world's economy, sometimes calculating down to a decimal place the hit to output in decades to come. But detractors say those numbers are the product of economic models that are not fit to capture the full extent of climate change. As such, they can provide an alibi for policy inaction. Record temperatures, droughts, floods, and wildfires this year have cost billions of dollars of damage even before emissions take warming beyond the 2015 Paris Agreement cap of 2 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels. Still, some economists model in conclude in possibly say the critics that by the turn of the century, warming will cause less harm to the world's economy than COVID-19 has, or hit global shares by less than in the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis. Nobel-winning U.S. economist William Nordhaus sparked controversy in 2018 with a model that found the climate policies that best balance the cost and benefit from an economic point of view would result in warming of more than 3 Celsius by 2100. Many policymakers acknowledge the modeling limitations. European Central Bank Executive Board member Isabel Schnabel said in September it could understate the impact. Others go further, saying the whole approach is flawed. They rely on a theory of how demand, supply, and price interact throughout an economy to find a new balance. After an outside shock, the so-called general equilibrium model developed by 19th century French economist Leon Warras, but climate change is fundamentally different to other shocks because once it has hit, it doesn't go away, said Thierry Philipponant, author of a report by Finance Watch, a Brussels-based public interest NGO on financial issues. Another issue is that IAMs have for years used a quadratic function to calculate GDP losses that involves squaring the temperature change while ignoring other methods such as the exponential function better suited for rapid change. Dutch voters cast their ballots on Wednesday in a nail-biting election in which opinion polls show at least three parties, including the far right, could hope for the top spots, with no clear leader having emerged. A waiting poll published on the eve of the vote showed anti-Islam firebrand Geert Wilders' Freedom Party tied for the lead with the Conservative People's Party for Freedom and Democracy (VVD) of outgoing Prime Minister Mark Rutte, followed closely by a joint Labour/Green ticket. Only one thing is certain: the Netherlands will get its first new Prime Minister in over a decade. After Rutte resigned in July as his coalition government collapsed, ending a 13-year tenure, it's been enough now. The Netherlands can't take it anymore. We have to think about our own people first now. Borders closed, zero asylum seekers, Wilders said in a television debate late on Tuesday. Justice Minister Dilan Yılmaz, a Turkish immigrant, told on immigration and Rutte's successor at the helm of the VVD, who is hoping to become the country's first woman prime minister, responded, "I don't think anyone believes Wilders would be a prime minister for all. He's about closing borders, excluding groups who he feels don't belong in the Netherlands." At stake is also whether voters in one of Europe's most prosperous countries are willing to continue funding climate policies, such as an expensive rollout of offshore wind farms, amid a cost of living shock across the continent. No party is on track to take more than 20% of the votes, and with the late polls showing Labour leading Frans Timmermans and Wilders making gains, many scenarios are possible. Voting booths open at 7:30 a.m., that is 0630 GMT, and will close at 9 p.m., that is 2000 GMT, when national broadcaster NOS publishes its first exit poll. And that is the size of Top Accolade Global News Update. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Wednesday.